no great mystery there. I mean, I contracted to make so many records for private music, and we made the Golden Wire, and it was just time to make another one. I had sort of a double pass at this one. I did sort of wrote it and got it together, and then it got put off for a while because I got involved in a sort of a rock project for a bit. Then I came back. It was like in November of last year. I first wrote it and put it together, and then we came back and made it in March, where the producer I worked with came back to LA, and we took another look at the material and rewrote it a little bit, and then went in and recorded it. And by that time I'd been playing a lot more. I met Chad Wackerman, the drummer, and other than differently than the Golden Wire, we decided to record all the backing tracks live with bass and drums and guitar, and which made a big difference to the overall feeling of the album. Made it much more edgy in the rhythmic sense. Had a lot more attack, playing with live drums, which was great, and it's certainly the way I'd like to continue to make records, using a live drummer. And it was the classic way. Mm-hmm. Guys came in, we showed the material, we rehearsed it, learned it, and we went in and then played all the backing tracks at least. So we had fantastic drum tracks, and then I built up the rest of the music on top of that afterwards.
When do you write your material?
Well,
how does it come about?
Yeah, well, there usually seems a period each year when I've got a few weeks where I can kind of do it, and I seem to go, yeah, okay, this is the moment I should write. And I actually try and go into, I have a studio in LA, and I just get into it. I usually start by improvising a lot of stuff onto tape, and getting myself into the sort of writing framework. I improvise a lot. I go back and I analyze it, and I start taking out the better ideas, and then sort of working with them in a more formal way, and trying to develop them. And I work on maybe 10 pieces at once, a little bit at a time, and I try and pull them all up, and then you kind of get a sense of where it's all going, and if you need to write more, and like that, until I get them. I work through them a different way. I usually start on the guitar, and then maybe later I use a sequencer or computer and add drums and bass and change the harmonies and put them away for a while, come back until they start becoming something that's really worthwhile.
So you don't look for input from your...
Oh yeah, I would. With David Henschel, it's always good to have input. I think one of the most important things about writing music and making an album is to keep perspective all the time, be able to stand right back. So one of the reasons I like to work with the producer, so I don't have to be so involved with every part of the process. I like to be a player and the composer, and I don't want to get involved in too much else. But I welcome input, where somebody's got a very fresh take on it. David Henschel, on the new album, I think there's 11 tracks, and we eventually co-wrote 4 of them. They all started with me, and then maybe they needed a bridge, and I just was too close to it to think of it, or something like that, But yeah, I think it's important to collaborate and have, or at least listen to other people's ideas. You don't have to agree with it, but be open to changing things.
Right.
Yeah.
It's funny. You just kind of you're talking to, and I feel like I'm talking like a Jack DeJohnette or a John Scofield or something.
Yeah.
The only reason you're here is because you were in the police.
The only reason?
Well, the reason that was sort of catapulted you to fame. Let's put it that way. Obviously you're making it on your own.
Well, I think it was destined one way or the other.
But the thing is, it must be it must be hard to reconcile the two.
What?
Well, as being this member for 5 or 6 years of the world's biggest pop band.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden now you're a journeyman musician, credible as such, and yet the two are just worlds apart.
Well,
a lot of your contemporaries would have never gone through what you went through. Like other guys in the jazz scene, or I call it jazz for lack of a better term. But your record's going to probably put in the jazz section of your local record store.
Yeah, I feel that certainly that's the era I'm in, and I feel like those guys are my peers now. I feel I could play with any of them, or I know most of them now. But that the thing is that the way I started in music was in jazz. As a teenager, that was my complete obsession. Later on in life, I got into, at 5 years later, I got into playing R&B and eventually rock. But then I also went to university and played classical guitar for 5 years. came back, eventually happened to be in the police, which is how I got really well known. But I did a lot of things, but generally the subtext for me was always jazz. Even throughout the police, I was always listening to ECM records. At this point in time, I don't see the point in not coming out of the closet, as it were. I might just as well do this because this is what I always wanted to do. It's a harder way to go because it's music that's much harder, a much smaller audience. I mean, it always has been. But it's a choice, it's a difficult one. In my case, because, I'm used to, playing in big places and, living right, at the very top of the profession, and this is a different route. But I feel this is the kind of music I really want to play. I mean, it does put me to the test a bit, because it's harder to, get gigs and sell it and all the rest of it. It's a much harder way to go, but I feel it's what I do best.
It almost seems like in retrospect the police sort of came into their own, at that time of globalization, information age, and you guys introduced us to the third, as there was a third world, because you actually went there and stuff. I suppose that was one of the significant things that the band did. But in terms of your solo career now, what sort of lessons that you gained from the police are you making use of now?
Well, I mean, having been in the police, of course, was an amazing experience. I'd been playing for a few years already. I mean, 5 or 6 years of that was like, putting in about 40 or 50 years of life in anyone else's terms. Exactly. It was so dense with experience, One thing I think now is that, I've really been through this whole scene from, A to Z. I feel I can be very objective about things, and sometimes playing this kind of music, you go through difficult situations, but I feel I can stand back from it and be fairly objective about it. Also, I must add that, financially, I don't have to do it if I don't want to, which makes it, in a sense, easier, because I don't have to. It makes it easier for me to do it because I don't have to get so emotional about it all, and so I can do it, and I can be more relaxed about doing it, and therefore I feel I can do it better. But still, it's a fight, but it's one that at this point in time I'm still prepared to go through.
Are you still growing as a musician now?
I think so, more now. See, I think for a while I kind of stopped, Actually, throughout the police, I think it was all so fast. There was no time to even think about seriously playing one. But I think I've gone back on course now, and I've gone back into sort of the student mode, as it were, in terms of being a musician who's interested in learning more and playing better all the time.
Are you more of a listener now?
I don't listen much.
Oh, really?
I mean, I do, but I mean, I'm not. It's not like when you start out. Well, I've listened to a lot of music in my life, and I don't, and I've been influenced. There's some people's music I enjoy, a lot of it I don't enjoy. I don't feel the need to be. I go home and put on records and sit there on a couch listening to records. I don't do that. I mean, I listen mostly driving around LA in my car. I take tapes around and listen to stuff, check out some new things of people who's playing I'm interested in. But mostly in the jazz area or world music or crossover kind of things. I don't listen to much rock or stuff like that anymore.
When you're a musician, obviously the music you do is the most important thing happening to you. But the overall music scene, who do you think who is doing the really significant stuff right now?
In the overall scene?
Yeah, overall scene. It could be world music, it could be in the LA scene, it could be anything.
I mean, you see a lot of the people doing really significant stuff don't get known. No one knows who they are,
So?
Yeah. I mean, who knows who John Hassell is, for instance? His new record's wonderful. Very brilliant, avant-garde, great synthesis of music, but who knows about it? Probably no one, And yeah, he's very influential amongst musicians, I mean, Brian Eno's been very influential in his time, not so much anymore. See, I feel I'm sort of not all that in touch with the rock scene, so I don't really hear anything in the rock scene that I find new. Really, the new stuff is more to do with production values and sound rather than. I suppose rap is a new area that's of music, but